Saltburn director Emerald Fennell is back with a new film, this time a new adaptation of Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights, as if we haven't had enough of them. But the news isn't to be met with immediate distaste. Fennell proved herself to be an interesting artist in this day and age when she gave us Saltburn, a provocative and outrageous tale about an outsider who infiltrates and shatters an aristocratic family by carrying out grotesque acts. The film's spectacle and fun and daring energy felt like a much-needed breath of fresh air in the age of mundane art constrained by the shackles of wokeism. This new adaptation from Fennell was teased to follow a similar style, as we were introduced to various marketing materials that gave us the impression this was going to be highly erotic, an unusual approach to Wuthering Heights that we're not exactly familiar with. And that's when we saw a barrage of early criticism from those who were doubtful that this would remain faithful to the source material. Some critics who got to see the film early claimed this film would be like Marmite, audiences would love it or hate it, but the truth is it falls somewhere in between. It's not polarizing enough to anger one side and for the other side to go away thinking that it's the best film of a generation. It's not as provocative or outrageous as you might expect it to be, to my disappointment, nor does it go out of its way to anger "it must be a replica of the book" tyrants. The film begins with a public hanging scene. Now, this was initially reported to be much more explicit than what we end up with in the final film. World of Real reported that audiences from test screenings revealed the scene quickly descends into grotesque absurdity as the condemned man ejaculates mid-execution, sending the onlooking crowd into a kind of orgiastic frenzy. A nun even fondles the corpse's visible erection. I can confirm it's not that explicit, even though I wish it was. But if those reports are true, then it does mean that the film was toned down. Nonetheless, it's still a stark opening to a story that we're all familiar with, delivering something that comes as a surprise to us. It's not a bad thing to be shocked, after all. From then on, it's a bit slow as we watch Heathcliff and Catherine as children. It feels like an introduction that's delivery is mandatory, a necessity to get out of the way with. But thankfully things pick up when we jump forward in time, when both of our characters are adults. There's been some slight controversy regarding Jacob Elordi's casting, as some are trying to condemn Fennell for picking a white actor to play Heathcliff. But as Fennell has explained, not that she should have to, when she saw Elordi with sideburns on the set of Saltburn, he looked exactly like the illustration of Heathcliff on the first book she read, which captivated her to want him to play the role. And it's a good thing that she went with her personal instincts and cast Elordi alongside Margot Robbie, because these two have genuine chemistry, and of course they are satisfying to look at. It's one of the most compelling cinematic couples to hit modern screens, a casting decision that many will be grateful for after witnessing this piece. Once the eroticism begins, this is the strongest point of the film. You genuinely feel the sexual tension between the pair, and that authenticity is generated because you have been seduced into engaging with these characters on a deeply emotional level, again, thanks to the casting decision. Some might think that what we'd be getting is softcore porn, but it's far from it. It's rather an honest depiction of the sexual acts the two would have been expected to engage in and the cues that would have led up to it. This isn't sexual perversion on our hands, it's romance uncensored. There is one powerful moving moment during the pair's sexual awakening that makes you sit up in your seat and pay attention to the chemistry and the lust taking place, to the point where you feel it yourself, as if you're stepping into someone else's wet dream. And this is intensified by an impressive score by Charlie XCX that feels naturally appropriate. You feel as though the rest of this journey will dig deeper with its intensity, but I regret to say that this moment was the film's peak. When the cruelty begins and the relationship becomes twisted, it's engaging but not as much as what came before it. You're left disappointed in this adaptation's ability to move you with its eroticism, yet can't maintain the same charge with its cruel elements. Because, of course, when tragedy strikes, you want it to hit you with maximum effect, but there wasn't enough charge to do that. That's not to say you don't feel pain for the characters, it's just not hurtful enough. I wanted to leave the cinema broken and devastated, emotionally wounded, something previous adaptations have failed to make me feel, and I hoped this would be the one that did it. Some might say this makes me sick and twisted, or perhaps it is reasonable to want a story to destroy you emotionally, to make you feel something different to the mundanity of everyday life. Wuthering Heights had potential to create lasting impact, and at moments it does succeed. It just doesn't carry that all the way through the work. The film isn't perfect, but out of all the adaptations of this story that I've seen, this is by far the most interesting and engaging one, even if it didn't end up being the provocative, erotic masterpiece that I had envisioned for it. If Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights didn't exist and this was an original story presented to us on screen, I doubt there would be as much negative reception that I've came across. There seems to be a default obsession that some audiences carry, that they judge the merit of a cinematic adaptation based on its faithfulness at replicating the novel precisely. I'd argue films aren't required to implement accuracy in its portrayal of the source material it's working from. Surely an adaptation should bring something new, otherwise you may as well guide audiences to read the book instead. These adaptations shouldn't be a translation test, although for some that approach may be seen as an easy opportunity to critique a film. How Emerald Fennell approached this adaptation is deeply interesting. She explained that she was making a version of the story that would encapsulate her imagination at the time of reading the novel at 14 years of age, a version which focused on the sadomasochistic elements of it. There was a version she remembered that isn't quite real, and also a version where she wanted stuff to happen that never actually happened. Thus, she placed Wuthering Heights in quotation marks. I much prefer this approach to an adaptation than a precise translation, and if there's something that cinema desperately needs, it's more interesting storytelling. It's just a shame that this didn't live up to its potential, embracing the true individuality that was teased before its release.